Hey y'all, and welcome to my first 2026 new release video. Initially, I planned on breaking up the year into thirds, so I was going to do 4 months at a time. However, the list just kept growing, and I felt like the first 4 months of this year were going to end up being like 2 hours worth of books. So I have decided to break it into quarters this time, and I'll be telling you the books that I'm most excited for coming out in January, February, and March of this year. The very first one on the list, I actually just received an approved ALC for this yesterday, and that is The Murder at World's End by Ross Montgomery. This is described as Knives Out meets Downton Abbey, which is very appealing to me. I love Downton Abbey and I loved Knives Out. Have I watched any of the other movies? No. However, this sounds so intriguing to me. It is set in 1910 Cornwall, leading up to the passing of Halley's Comet. Now, the Viscount of Tithe Hall is completely absorbed by preparations for the comet. He thinks that this is going to be like an apocalypse-inducing event, so he is doing everything he can to seal off his manor house from the rest of the world in an effort to survive what he thinks is going to bring the end times. Unfortunately, he does not account for the danger coming from within, and he is found in a sealed room murdered with one of his own weapons. All eyes now turn to Tithe Hall's newest under-butler, Stephen, who is fresh out of prison from serving a sentence for a crime he did not commit. Stephen is forced to team up with octogenarian matriarch of the family, Miss Stockingham, who is described as unconventional and fearless. I think this sounds really fun. Like I said, I just got the approval for this ALC yesterday. I wish I had had time to listen to it before I made this video, but I'm so excited for it. I'm gonna go listen tonight. Next is Beth is Dead by Katie Bernet. This is a contemporary reimagining of Little Women where Beth is found murdered in the woods and her sisters vow to catch her killer. There's no shortage of suspects due to the fallout from their father's recently released novel about his daughters. And eventually the sisters begin to turn on each other. I think this is so fun. I love a reimagining. I love especially a contemporary reimagining of a book that is so set in a certain place in a certain time with certain restrictions that make those things possible. So I think this sounds really interesting and fun, and I can't wait to see how it all plays out. Coming mid-month is a midnight pastry shop called Hwawoldang by Onhwa. This is a Korean translated healing fiction book in the vein of so many that I love. After inheriting her grandmother's bakery, Onhwa has to learn to make specialty pastries for the spirits that come in to visit the bakery, seeking closure before reincarnation. The bakery is only open from 10 p.m. to midnight, during which time the spirits come in to request pastries from their past that hold special meaning or memories. I believe each chapter in this book is going to focus on a different spirit as they find peace and eventually move on. So very much in the same vein as a lot of the healing fiction that I tend to enjoy, and I think this has a very interesting twist of the bakery. Kind of reminds me of the Afterglow candy store where there's like a special confection that helps with a specific problem. Next is a re-release by Kingfisher. It is called 9 Goblins, and I have already pre-ordered this one. I'm so looking forward to it. Goblin Sergeant Naselka finds herself and small troop of warriors caught behind enemy lines during the Goblin Wars. They were all sort of lured there by this weird, mean, maybe evil warlock. Her only mission now is to keep everyone together and get them home safely. I think this is meant to be quite a short book. Again, it's one that I haven't read by her, and I'm so happy to see it being re-released traditionally. Sticking in the same sort of what I consider cozy fantasy vein is How to Lose a Goblin in 10 Days. This sounds so interesting to me, and it's very cute. This is described as a cozy fantasy with cottagecore vibes. So we have Halfling Pansy and Goblin Wren, who both believe that they've inherited the same property. In an effort to determine who should really get the property, they come up with a plan to outlast each other. So there's forced proximity where they're living together in the same space and a bit of an enemies vibe. So I think what's going to happen here is there's going to be an outside force that threatens the community and their home, and they're going to have to kind of come together to fight against that. So like I said, we have the forced proximity. We have a little bit of like an enemies, or at least rivals, to maybe friends to lovers, and I just think it sounds so fun and cozy and sweet. Catch Her If You Can is book 5, and I believe the final book in the Big Shot series by Tessa Bailey. I have pre-ordered this from the Next Chapter Long Island. They do offer personalized signed copies, so I will show you that when it comes. I'm so excited to have another one in the series that will be signed by Tessa. This book centers Eve and Madden, who we actually met in the previous book. Eve is best friend to Skylar, and Madden was Skylar's former crush, so like a lot of interaction with book 4. Madden, I believe, grew up up in Ireland, and he has offered to fake marry Eve, who is a burlesque club owner, but also the new guardian of her late sister's 2 young children. This has marriage of convenience, which is one of my favorite things, and actually mutual pining. It seems like Eve and Madden both had feelings for each other for a very long time, but Eve has the added complication of being Skylar's best friend and knowing that Skylar's had a crush on him for like her whole life. And Madden is trying to break into the professional baseball league. I think there's going to be a lot of angst and a lot of swoony moments that Tessa Bailey does so well. The Elsewhere Express by Samantha Sotto Yambao is gorgeous. This is about a magical train that appears to people who are lost or struggling to find a purpose in their life. Rhea boards the train on a subway line and meets street artist Q. Together, they explore the mystical, magical train and come across a mysterious stowaway. I'm sure this will have a lot of magical realism, beautiful writing. I do really enjoy Samantha's writing. I just didn't really get on with Watermoon. However, I think there's so much potential for this book to be a winner for me. Another re-release and the final book I have for January is Next in Line by Amy Daws. This is actually book 2 in the Wait With Me series. The series is being re-released, traditionally published, and it's a little bit out of order, but they did that in a way to make it more seasonal, line up seasonally with some of her other books. Having the 5th book re-released first to kind of go along with her Mountain Men Matchmaker series, because that 5th book features the eldest brother of the Fletcher Mountain brothers, Max. Sam and Maggie meet after Maggie breaks up with the man that she thought she was going to marry, and so travels to Colorado to spend time with her brother and have new experiences. Sam and Maggie's chemistry is on fire, but little does Maggie know, Sam is not exactly a stranger. He is actually her brother's best friend. Now the pair is forced to hide their spark from Maggie's brother Miles and his group of friends, or they risk ruining the friendship and those relationships forever. I'm really looking forward to getting into this series. I have not read Max's book, even though it kind of goes with the Fletcher brothers. I really want to read this series in order, so I cannot wait to jump into it in 2026. Moving into February, first up, I have Just for the Cameras by Meghan Quinn. Also, I have pre-ordered this like beautiful copy with the sprayed edges and flamingos. The flamingos tie-in, okay? Our female main character is a zookeeper who manages the flamingos. So we have kind of a grouchy football player called Graydon St. John as our male main character, and he is not into the publicity. He's not interested in the fame of it all. He just wants to play football and be left alone, which, I mean, I get it. A PR scandal affecting the entire league thrusts Graydon into the spotlight as he has to try and do a little bit of cleanup by participating in some public outreach at the zoo. That's where he meets flamingo keeper Maple, who seems to hate Graydon on sight. When the two find themselves paired together for this public outreach project at the zoo, they have to make nice for the cameras. I think this sounds really fun. I really like some animosity, maybe not like hate to love, but I like a little bit of animosity or agitation with the other person. I think it just adds a little bit of fun. Something that sounds a little bit like a heartbreaker, but is described as a romance, is This Book Made Me Think of You. This is about a young widow who is gifted 12 books over 12 months, each with a letter posthumously by her late husband. I believe he set up an arrangement with local bookstore owner Alfie before his death to provide these books to his wife each month. And like I said, each one contains a letter. I think that's going to be gut-wrenching. During the process of picking up these books and letters, I believe she's going to grow close to the bookstore owner Alfie. So I think that's going to be the romance connection. I think the premise for this sounded quite unique, and I think it's going to be a fun, maybe a little bit heartbreaking and heartwarming read at the same time. Okay, sorry for the abrupt change, but this afternoon winter lighting is just killing me, and it's a gloomy day to boot. So anyway, new place. Hopefully the lighting is a bit better. Another early February release for me is Boy with Accidental Dinosaur by Ian McDonald. I know that sounds kind of weird, right? But just stick with me. This is a dystopian sci-fi novel about orphan Tiff. Now, Tiff has always wanted to be part of the dinosaur rodeo. He has always dreamed of being a dinosaur buckaroo. So when he unexpectedly saves a mistreated dinosaur, he finds himself part of a traveling circus and on a mission to return an old carnivore to the Cretaceous period through a time portal. It sounds wild. It's like you cannot predict the next word in any of these sentences, but I think there's going to be a lot of found family here, and I think this is really going to focus on being a coming of age tale, the responsibility of having a, not a pet, but an animal that you have to care for, and really this boy Tiff just making his way in a world where he doesn't have anything else. He really has no family and no home. So I'm really, really looking forward to the found family elements in this. And I love a dinosaur. I love a dinosaur. More sci-fi randomness and good times is Operation Bounce House by Matt Dinniman. This sounds so cool to me. It is about a rancher colonist named Oliver on the planet New Sonora. And Oliver is forced to defend his community and his planet when the folks over at Earth start making a game out of destroying his planet. Gamers are offered an opportunity to attack the planet using remote weapons. And of course, it's a very lucrative experience, so Earth is making money off of it. They don't really care about the people there. I think this is going to blend comedy with a lot of really serious commentaries on society, politics, things like that in Matt's usual fashion. And I expect a very unique narrative from Matt in this one. I cannot wait. This is going to be, I think, quite different from Dungeon Crawler Carl, but I hope we have a similar voice. Like I mentioned, that comedy blended with serious commentary. Switching up things once again, Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter by Heather Fawcett. You guys know I love Heather Fawcett. I love all of the Emily Wilde books. This is a cozy fantasy set in 1920s Montreal. We are following Agnes, who is a meticulously organized cat shelter manager. Agnes is forced to move her cat shelter into a building owned by Havelock Renard, a former Dark Lord turned magic shop owner. When an enemy from his past emerges, it threatens not only his magic shop, but also Agnes's cat rescue. This is described as a slow burn, opposites attract fantasy with romance, and I cannot wait. A fantasy and Kate Quinn's first foray into magical realism is the Astral Library. I think I've been recommended Kate Quinn by a book club friend of ours, Brianna. I think she's recommended Kate Quinn before because she does a lot of historical fiction. But like I said, this is Kate Quinn's first foray into magical realism, and it sounds really good to me. We have orphan Alex, who discovers a secret library where the books transport you into different magical worlds. Alex has to team up with the mysterious librarian to escape dark forces that are working to destroy the library and all of the books and worlds within it. I've read books with similar themes to this, like books transporting you literally into other worlds, and I've not ever been wowed by it, so I'm really looking forward to this one. I think it has a lot of potential. My final book of February is Without a Clue by Melissa Ferguson. This is a rom-com / cozy mystery set on a luxury book cruise, whatever the heck that is. The plot follows Pip, who is a personal assistant, as she has to work with the Magnificent Seven. This is a group of mystery writers when one of them is murdered on the ship. After Ally Carter's The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year and that mix of rom-com and cozy mystery, I feel like this is a micro genre that I'm really into, and I'm going to eat this one up. My first book of March is The Library of Amorlin by Kalyn Josephson. Sarah Beth Durst blurbed this one, so I don't need to know much more than that, but I will give you a little blurb. A former con artist, Kasira, who is now a prisoner, is propositioned with a deal for her freedom. Unfortunately, it involves infiltrating and destabilizing the Library of Amorlin, which serves an important role in all of the kingdoms. She's disguised as a new assistant librarian, and the long con is to bring down the prickly and handsome head librarian, Alistair. This is a slow burn romance. I think Alistair has like secrets of his own too, maybe like a dark past, which sounds very interesting. I've also seen early reviews say it has excellent world building and magical creatures. Shifting gears once again is The Best Little Motel in Texas by Lila Lane. This sounds kind of unhinged in the most hilarious way to me. After Cordelia's great aunt passes, she inherits her old motel. Now, when Cordelia arrives back to her hometown that she had sworn off, she discovers that it's not really a motel, it's kind of a brothel. And the brothel employs the chicks, which are 3 60-something-year-old women that service the town of Sarsaparilla Falls. When the local priest is found dead in one of the chicks' beds, Cordelia has to race against the clock to solve the murder. This is like a very spicy Golden Girls murder mystery, and I'm hoping it delivers. No Place Like You by Jillian Meadows is book 2 in a series that I cannot find the name to, but it follows Give Me Butterflies by the same author, and the plot centers Millie's sister, Fable. Fable is kind of down on her luck, and after a string of failures, she finds herself living back at home in her parents' backyard. Unfortunately for Fable, her old friend turned high school rival is also back in town. Theo. Theo is also kind of finding his path. In an effort to prove that he's stable and sticking around, he concocts a plan to fake date Fable. As the two spend more time together, the lines between what's fake and what's real and all the old feelings resurfacing start to blur the lines of this arrangement, and I think they're just gonna fall in love and live happily ever after, and I'm so down with that. Hell's Heart by Alexis Hall. I'm gonna keep this short and sweet because, like, good lord, the cover is what pulled me in. This is a sci-fi reimagining of Moby Dick with a crew hunting giant space monsters for their spinocerebral fluid in a post-Earth future. I don't know. This is kind of like Boy with Accidental Dinosaur. It's just all the words, it's like a jumble. This is described as Gideon the Ninth, which I have not read, meets Murderbot, which I love. So yeah, I'm gonna be giving this a go. And the cover is just absolutely wild. Everyone in This Bank is a Thief by Benjamin Stevenson is book 4 in the Ernest Cunningham series, and I have been eating that one up. In this newest installment, we find Ernest at the center of yet another murder mystery. A bank heist goes wrong and someone is murdered. With everyone in the bank a suspect, Ernest has to work to find out who is not only a thief, but also a murderer. I have just been enjoying these books so much. I enjoy the writing. The author is also a comedian, so I think that plays into so much of the writing, and a lot of the times when I'm reading these, or like the last one I listened, absolutely laugh out loud funny. I have a great time with all of them, and I cannot wait for this. I did apply for an ALC and an ARC, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I get it. Now, an ARC that I have received is Wolfworm by T. Kingfisher. Yes, another T. Kingfisher release. There are going to be a lot this year, so just buckle up and get ready. This is a standalone horror set in 1899 North Carolina. Sonia is a scientific illustrator with no prospects. So when she's offered a position with Dr. Halder to document his large collection of insects, she jumps on the opportunity and travels to North Carolina. I have started this book, and I will say on the way to Dr. Halder, she's offered a carriage ride. Otherwise, she'd have to walk through the forest. And the guy who gives her a ride is like, I don't care if it's 20 miles out of my way, you're not walking. There's devils, actual devils in these woods. So that is like instantly sucking me in. Sonia quickly discovers that there are, in fact, dark things in the woods, and her questions begin to mount. Why are all the animals acting so strangely? What happened to Dr. Halder's first wife, her predecessor in this project? Working with the housekeeper and a local healer, Sonia starts to uncover Dr. Halder's deep, dark secrets and his horrifying experiments. I think this sounds so interesting. There's like a thing with flesh-eating maggots. I don't know how I feel about that, but it's T. Kingfisher. I'm sure I'll love it. I read a spoiler-free review before I got the ARC that said it was this person's new favorite T. Kingfisher book, so big shoes to fill. Coming out right at the end of March are 3 books. First of them being Wait With Me, which is book 1 in the Wait With Me series by Amy Daws. I told you they were being re-released a little out of order. So romance author Kate is struggling with writer's block as she's trying to finish the final book in her wildly popular spicy romance series. While she's in a waiting room at a tire shop, inspiration strikes, so it has broken her writer's block, and that's where she continues to write. This catches the attention of a mechanic called Miles, and she starts to test out in real life her plot for the book. I think she even names her mailman character Miles in her book. So I think this is going to be really interesting. I've seen it described as friends to lovers. So maybe there's a connection there where they become friends and then it moves on to imitating the book. I'm not sure, but I'm so excited to start this series. Another Gothic tale coming out at the end of March is The Fourth Wife by Linda Hamilton. This is also set in the 1800s, this time 1880s Utah. A young Mormon woman named Hazel is commanded to become the fourth wife of this stranger, Jacob, and then she moves into his haunted mansion with his other wives. While living there, she uncovers dark secrets and supernatural horrors while questioning her faith and her marriage. It sounds super creepy and very intriguing. My final book of the first quarter of 2026 is The Faraway End by Sarah Beth Durst. This is a YA fantasy, and you know I love Sarah Beth Durst, so that is why I'm giving a YA a chance. I'm sure it's going to be great. In this book, we follow Calissa, who is a recently broken-hearted teenager helping her eccentric aunt manage a rundown bed and breakfast in Vermont, only to discover that the guests there are magical and otherworldly. This is a cozy and heartwarming story following Calissa as she does help with the cleanup and discover the magic of the inn. I think she's meant to find purpose and a touch of romance along the way, probably coming of age, character building type story. It is described as comforting and charming and whimsical, and I just know Sarah Beth Durst will deliver on all of those promises. Those are all of my most anticipated reads for the first quarter of 2026. I'm sure there's plenty I missed, and if you know of one that you think I would love, please let me know down in the comments and I will be sure to check it out and add it to the never-ending TBR. Thank you so much for watching today. I will be back probably late March or early April for my next installment. Until then, there is plenty more coming on the channel, so I hope you will stick with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!